Hello, Jessica. Thank you for coming back for round two. I'm so excited to talk about everything TBM, to be magnetic, as well as hypnosis, possibly even where you are in your manifestation process and whatever comes up.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It was so fun recording the first time, and I feel like I'm starting to lean into me being interviewed on other things more. So I'm feeling more comfortable in this side of the interview dynamic.
Well, you're a natural. I mean, I feel when I am interviewing people who have either been on podcasts before, or especially like you are a host of a podcast, there's this way of speaking that
Mm.
is really noticeable. It's like, aha, you've done this before.
Thank you. Thank you. You as well.
Thank you. I learned a lot from listening to you, actually.
Mm.
So I asked you to come on, and then To Be Magnetic also just launched their affiliate program. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a great place to like merge these two conversations because I talk about To Be Magnetic almost on every single podcast episode, whether it comes up with my own processing or I just had Leo Max from Restorative Hypnosis come on. He
Mm.
always suggests people start with TBM as that basic foundation into working with the subconscious, understanding how you can reprogram those neural synapses or pathways. And then with To Be Magnetic, it combines manifestation with this process of working in the subconscious. So if you could give a brief description about TBM from your side of things.
A brief description, man. Okay, let me think. I think, you know, there's a lot of different methods out there for manifestation. And to me, manifestation is actualizing your goals, like bringing the things you want into reality. Very simply, it's accomplishing your goals. It's achieving those things and connecting with them. And what TBM does differently and uniquely is combining sort of the psychology and neuroscience of our limiting beliefs, our blueprints, our patterns, the things we picked up as kids, um, and really intersects them in a way that in order to achieve the things you want in life, you really need to look at what are the subconscious and unconscious patterns that are looping down there that are actually projecting out and preventing you from connecting with those things. Because if you're looping that, you really want um a career in the arts, but your parents have always told you growing up, like, you'll never make money there. You're only credible if you're a doctor. Then, even if you truly want it with every fiber of your being, one part of you is playing small, holding back, not going for that thing. And when we can uncover everything that's operating down there, we can overwrite that neural pathway, that automatic loop we go back to every single time and start to think differently and then act differently. We can actually basically connect with our manifestations. And yeah, it's the most science backed version I've ever heard. And I think it's really powerful. And it's interesting. People come in to connect with their manifestations, but I think they'll find so much deeper than that. You uncover so much healing, so much inner confidence and self-love because you're really seeing all the parts of you in your journey of life. Um, I'm now recognizing this is not a short answer, but you get the point.
That was pretty concise, I would say. That was a great description. I have experienced that personally. I came to be magnetic for manifestation. I had been listening to the expanded podcast, and so I kind of understood the language and the general process. And this was July of 2020 during lockdown, and it just in my body, I was in such a tumultuous space in my life. My soul was like rattling me like there's something more, there's something bigger for you, and I knew this and I couldn't get past my own way.
Mm,
Because my perception at that point, I was just seeing the world through this belief system. And I
mm,
didn't really understand that I had the power to change it. And when I started TBM, it was like an immediate shift. And I got out of on and off again 3-year relationship that wasn't supportive for me. I changed my career and I sold all of my things and I moved across the country to, I didn't even know where I was going to land. I just got in my car and drove. And now, flash forward almost 3 years later, and I'm a completely different person. It feels in this way that like I didn't change who I am. I just removed the layers and the cloud of all of these limiting beliefs.
Mm,
And with To Be Magnetic, I found that you guys really break things down in a very digestible way. That, yes, you're working with hypno meditations that are guided, but you're doing it on your own time to reprogram and identify these perceptions, these limiting beliefs. Then you also have to pass tests
mhm,
and take aligned action with what it is that you're calling in. And I had somebody write to me saying, "Oh, I saw that you were sharing about To Be Magnetic. You know, I used to be part of that, but I just like couldn't get over the thing with the tests. That I like really didn't like that the universe was testing us. That feels
mm,
really unkind. And like, why do I need to prove myself?"
mm,
And my response to them was, I feel that it's actually a very kind thing. And it's not about you proving yourself. It's the universe coming to meet you to say, are you ready to take this next step? And if you're not, that's totally fine. We're going to stay here a little bit longer and you can keep learning, gathering the tools that you need to feel confident moving forward. And once that time comes, then you can make the decision if this is even the step forward that you want anymore. Because a lot of times, once you cultivate all of these tools, this awareness, you realize, oh, I was trying to manifest something that's not even authentic to me. And then
mhm,
that's the other piece of TBM that I really identify with is that authenticity piece,
mm.
connecting to those core values, those core beliefs, and you can use that as a filter system. Does this manifestation align with all of these values? If yes, great. And if not, I'm going to adjust.
I love that you bring this up because I think so many times test or triggers can be perceived as something shameful or embarrassed. Like, oh, I'm not good enough yet. So I'm getting tested. And I really want to reframe that for people because it's interesting. Did you watch the Stutz documentary on
I started
Netflix?
it. I watched
Okay,
like
okay.
half of it.
So one of the principals, he's a therapist for Jonah Hill, and he has really interesting tools that I've been like taking notes on that I thought were cool. But one of the principles he talks about is, you know, pain is a constant and it's something that will come in and out of your life throughout your whole life. If you are expecting to reach a point where you will never have any pain, never have any suffering, never have any discomfort, you're in for a harsh reality because that's not the human existence. It's a balance of both of those things. And not to say that we should live in pain and suffering. It's just accepting that those moments will come. And so when you think about a test or a trigger, instead of saying and denying that you're having an emotional reaction or denying that you're at a pain point in life, you can say, huh, what lesson can I learn from this moment right here? What is this trying to guide me to? What is it trying to teach me? It's certainly not trying to teach me that I'm not good enough. It's trying to teach me that I am good enough, but I might have some blinders on. I might be forgetting my worth. And it's trying to really guide you towards remembering it through these things happening in the physical world. So, for anyone listening, if you experience test triggers, rock bottoms, any of those things, they're nothing to be ashamed of. They're nothing to be embarrassed by. You don't need to feel like, wow, that means I'm so much lower on my totem pole of self-worth. It's really just a dance that you're having with the universe that's trying to gently guide you there, remind you, and connect you with something even greater than where you're at now. I know for me personally, whenever I hit like a rock bottom or a massive test, there's a bit of my ego that's like, dang, I thought I was, beyond this, or I've done so much work. How could I be here? And it's like, it's the acceptance of knowing these will always come. There is no platform where you are immune to that. That's just a human experience. It's just getting to the next and next and next layer. And it's learning how to navigate a test or a trigger with a way that's helpful instead of shaming yourself for it. But it's like, okay, let me investigate this. What could I glean from this? What could I take away from this? How can this apply to my life? And I could shift things moving forward.
I think the awareness piece that you mentioned is so important. And that's a big part of what I do in my work as a sound healer, meditation teacher. I'm helping people cultivate this part of their mind that's known as the observer mindset. And this is a neutral space of observation and has loving acceptance for everything, just as it is. Loving acceptance for all of the pieces of yourself, as well as all of the people and the experiences in life. And I had a client the other day. He's kind of on the fence. He's interested in spirituality, but he's like, I don't, if there's like a God or if there's this divine source, then why do bad things happen?
Mm.
And that's such a common question for so many
Mhm.
people. And I looked back and I said to him, why do you think that they're bad?
Mm.
And it was like this equal like confusion, but also then contemplation. And through the observer mindset, when you're cultivating this, you come to find out that there really is no good or bad. There just is. The experience is just what it is. And then yesterday I was talking with another client and she was relaying a story of a bad experience that she had this week. And she used the word difficult. And I
Mm.
had this like aha moment. And I made the connection that when we see things as good, it's usually because they're easy. They make us
Mm.
feel at ease. And
Mhm.
when we view things as bad, it's a difficult experience. We have difficulty accepting it.
Mm.
And so when you can shift that perspective and speaking to tests and triggers specifically, a lot of people come to those with, oh, this is something that's bad. Something bad
Mm.
is happening to me. One, they're in the victim mindset. Things are happening to them rather than taking responsibility. And then also, it might just be a difficult thing. But when you shift that from bad to difficult, you gain power because we are
Mhm.
naturally resilient people. We can move through difficult things. Difficult things will become easy, and
Mhm.
easy things will become difficult. That's the
Mm.
yin and yang, that cycle of life. So when you're faced with or I'll keep it in the eye, when I am faced with a test or a trigger, now I've cultivated that observer mindset over the last 3 years that I can immediately identify if something is a test or trigger. So I don't really get that reactive response anymore.
Mm.
But then I look at, okay, like you said, what is this trying to show me? What things can I learn? What tools can I gain to help me move through this? And identifying that as this is a difficult situation. I haven't done this before. Or maybe this has happened to me before, but now I need to do something differently. And this different action is difficult. And that brings you into curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting. We just had an episode with Janelle, who's our in-house licensed marriage and family therapist, and she was talking about how a lot of times when we see those things, those tests, there is an element of shame of them happening in our lives. And curiosity can actually be a key to transforming shame, because when bad things happen, it can be, I'm not good enough, I'm bad, something's wrong with me. And when we could say, okay, nothing's wrong with you. Let's start from that level. You may feel that way in the moment, or you may have a childhood wound of that or a core wound of that, but that's not actually what the test is pointing to, and kind of say, okay, can we separate from the part of me that does feel like that to the observer, like you're saying, and really witness, how can I get curious about this? What other stories could be true here? If the answer to this test or trigger isn't, well, I'm just bad and this is an example of why I'm just not a good person, what about, okay, this is learning resiliency on how to navigate this difficult situation. I'm actually learning the steps to put in place So then if someone else experiences it, I can actually show them a roadmap. Like you can kind of see the hope on the other side of things.
I love that. The hope. When we have hope, it just opens us up for everything. There's that bridge that's formed between where you are now and that highest version of yourself.
Mhm.
And I really started to work with this higher self through TBM, through the Future Self DI, which is their deep imaginings, their meditations, and how to take those steps to connect with your highest self. Intuition, you guys call that pings, following your pings. And an example that I had, and then the aligned action piece. So I'll share a little story. My manifestation process is very passive. So I build the foundation for myself. I put out the groundwork. I am out in the community. I'm doing what I do. And then because of the work that I do, then I receive opportunity. It's
Mm,
very difficult usually if I try to reach out for opportunity and make it happen. It's more a passive receiving.
mhm,
So I kept feeling like I really wanted to connect with corporate opportunities for corporate wellness. The corporate wellness is huge since the pandemic happened, really taking time to appreciate employee health and wellness. Sound healing is often utilized, meditation, yoga, those types of things. So this idea came through. I want to work with corporate clients. I don't know how to do that. I've never done that before. That's not something that I'm like, oh, yes, I know exactly what to do. So I started to follow my pings, and a ping that I kept getting, this stroke of intuition, was to update my SEO, my search engine optimization on my website, to be very explicitly clear that I offer these services and
mm.
to put this on the main landing page of my website. Like they take one scroll up, and there it is, corporate events, describing everything that's available. Within 3 days, I was approached by Converse through my website that they
Wow.
had found me through a search engine looking for a sound healer. And
Wow.
yes, decided to go with me. And everything's going great. I'm like, awesome, this is great. But I was aware that this is a new opportunity for me. This is something, this is that like next level up.
Mhm.
So a test or a trigger or something could happen. And so I just kept myself open and aware. I noticed that I would send vulnerable things like, this is my rate. And then I'd send the email, and then like a day and a half would go by and I wouldn't hear. And I'd get these thoughts of like, oh, well, maybe that was too high, or they probably can tell that I've never done this before and I'm like shooting for the stars, or maybe they went with somebody else. But then they'd email back, that's great. Let's move forward, getting the documents, explaining that they're also busy. It's Converse. They have a lot to handle more than just my sound bath. So everything is fantastic. We it's a go, they're sending the deposit, and then they send me an NDA, which essentially states that I cannot share at all that I am in contact with them, that I'm working with them. And this is something that I used to come up against when I was a private chef working for celebrities,
Mm,
but it hindered me in the way that I couldn't share about it. So other people weren't aware that I did that. And when you
mm.
have that credibility, it helps you to get more clients. So I was like, aha, okay, here's the test. How can I ask for what I need? Letting them know that like I value this opportunity. I'm I'm here to do whatever, and I support and respect the company, but this is what I need. And so I very clearly, concisely, and respectfully laid it out that by being able to utilize their name, I can then grow my business and I can potentially get other corporate clients. Sent it out. I was just like, cross my fingers. I was like, we'll see. I let them know if it's a no go, then no worries, and maybe we can work towards that in the future. And I got an email back in less than a day saying we spoke with legal. Thank you so much for telling us about this. We're more than happy to add an amendment so that you can share that we're working together because we want to
Wow.
support the growth of your business.
Wow.
And so that's just like a little tiny blip of a manifestation over 3 years worth of manifestations that I've experienced through TBM. And I always say that I give so much credit to Be Magnetic because it helped me open up. It was like this catalyst for my spiritual awakening. It was
Mm,
everything my soul was ushering to me, that gentle nudge. TBM just kind of like blew it open in a really
mm,
beautiful, exciting way.
mm. I love that you share that because I think it really touches on so many parts of the process. Like you followed a ping to update your SEO. You were like, okay, you have to have that connection with self where those little tiny nudges, they almost feel like a you should do this. And at first you can kind of discount it and say, well, that's just a random idea. But I would encourage you to even for a day, all the tiny nudges, just try to act on them and see what happens. Because you would be surprised how many of those tiny nudges result in big, big, big changes. So you follow the ping, you put it on the SEO, you know that your pattern is that when you lay the foundation, the things come into you. So you don't have to sort of be in like a dog paddling energy seeking those other things. And then once it came in, it's like the double test. One, am I going to spiral out and create a narrative and story that, oh, they're not getting back to me because I'm not good enough or the number's not high enough or, what am I don't know what I'm doing. Or are you going to say, okay, I recognize those feelings. I'm going to feel them through, but I'm not going to attach to them. I'm not going to let them be my truth or define me. I'm going to trust whatever is going to unfold is going to be for my highest good. And then as you're like, okay, pass that test. Great. Awesome. Moving forward. Next test, the universe is like, are you sure you can stay in your worth with these clients? And that's where I'm curious also, I want to ask you, like, what belief system were you working on reprogramming throughout this period? Because something may have shifted internally where you perhaps used to go down this narrative or this dynamic was familiar from this in the past, and now you're edging towards the new one. Because when you're teetering between the old belief system and the new, that's when the test can pop up and be like, are you going to go to the old belief system or are you going to keep in the new? And you taking the action to send the email of this is how it helps my business. It's almost like an invitation to them to understand, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to share how I'm viewing this relationship. And hopefully that aligns, like you're so in your deservingness at that point. And then they're like, great, amazing, talk to legal. It's a fit. It's a go. So what was the belief system that you were working with at that time?
I know exactly what the answer is because it's been very intentional. It has been something that I think has been with me my whole life, maybe even past lives, but the root of it is being taken advantage of.
Mm,
And I have felt this energy in every relationship that I've had, every work dynamic that I've had, this idea that what I want and need from this relationship, they're going to take more from it of me than
mm,
I'm going to get out of it. And
mm,
so there's this constant struggle and kind of dancing around feeling small, feeling like I need to just accept whatever it is that I can get, be
mhm,
grateful for, like, well, at least it's this, like I'll just, and so there's that settling energy and being taken advantage of. There's this constant fear of the unknown, like where's it going to come from, who can I trust, who can I rely upon, and even if I can trust you in this moment, inevitably it's going to be a letdown because people take advantage of me. That was just this energy. And so by having that belief, people take advantage of me, I wasn't able to really open myself up and really allow
mhm,
myself to. I mean, vulnerability is such an interesting word because a lot of people connect it to being weak or soft.
mhm,
But true vulnerability, if we think about the divine feminine energy, when you have that strength in the core of your center where you know that you are immovable,
mhm,
you are everything that you need, it doesn't matter. Things can come and go, the wind, the storms, the people can try to take advantage. They're not able to because your foundation is rock solid. And so as I was maneuvering and utilizing the DIs, really uncovering where did this come from? What were all the times through my life that I felt taken advantage of? Where am I holding on to resentment because of those situations? How can I let that go? And how can I open up and be more vulnerable, knowing that I can trust myself?
Beneath, okay, and feel free to, if you know, you don't want to answer this, go, it's your podcast. I don't want to push you to go be vulnerable if you are not wanting to, but excuse me. When you think about that narrative, I am taken advantage of. They are getting more from me than I'm getting from them. It's not an equitable relationship. I have to kind of settle for this. I have breadcrumbs because I don't know what's coming next. What does that say about your self-belief? Like peeling it one step back, like really thinking, okay, if I get taken advantage of, what does that mean about who I am? What do you feel like the belief is there?
If I get taken advantage of, I believe that worthless is coming to my mind.
So when you can look at that sentiment, wow, I get taken, because you think of a little kid, right?
Mhm.
And you probably know this. I'm sure the audience has heard this, but when we're faced with these dynamics with our caregivers, our parents, our peers, because we need them to protect us, to keep us safe, we can't think that they're wrong or nuanced or reacting from an emotional place. We always internalize it back to us. And it creates those sticking points, those core wounds, those self narratives, those self beliefs. So if something bad happens to us as a kid, we're not like, well, that was a troubled adult. And that's why that happened. We're like, uh-oh, that person did that to me. That must mean there's something wrong with me that I deserved it, or I was, worthless, or whatever the narrative is. And so when you can pull back and see, okay, a part of you is in full worthiness and deservingness, and a part of you subconsciously is still fearful of being that worthless person. And that's where the dynamic's coming from. So your key to transforming that is in real time. My test here is to know that I am worthy. I am not worthless. And how would someone who knows they're worthy respond? And it almost feels, I don't want to say it's like fake it till you make it, but especially with actions in the beginning, as you're transforming that new neural pathway to worthiness, it can feel a little foreign. It could feel a little distant. And then it becomes closer and closer and closer. The more you do the work, the more you do the DIs and the reprogramming, and the more you take action in alignment with that new belief. So by you saying, this is how much I'm worth, I'm not gonna, you could have gone back when they didn't respond and say, actually, never mind, I'll do it for this price. That's what probably an older version of you may have done. But instead you stayed with, no, I'm worthy. And then when they said, okay, yeah, we'll work with you, but you can't tell anyone, that you're working with us. Well, the worthless narrative would have said, okay, well, I'm lucky to get this. But the worthy narrative is, no, this is a mutual, symbiotic relationship, and I need something out of this as well. And here are my needs, and I'm not afraid to ask for them. Like that is fully stepping into that worthiness and away from that worthless narrative. It's so cool.
Well, thank you for breaking that all down for me and for everyone listening. And it came to my mind when talking about this belief of feeling worthless. What does that actually mean? Because I think for a long time I would hear, even on the podcast and through TBM, I would hear this and I didn't really know what that meant. And I, through this process, became to realize that I was afraid that people were seeing who I am, my soul essence, as worthless, as something that they could discard. And then utilize and use me and use whatever the remnants of that were for their own taking. But it was this separation of my essence, my soul, and that's what I had the belief around was worthless. And so
Mm-hmm.
through this, like, I'm almost feeling and like seeing this like polishing like a pearl. It was becoming polished in this way through my own work and working on my connection with my essence, with my soul, with that highest self, connecting with my angelic team, divine energy. All of that really helped to strengthen and make that permanent connection now, where I do feel that immovable foundation within myself. I know that I can be vulnerable and I can put things out, I can ask for what I need, and know that even if I'm met with a no, that doesn't work for us, then I have the power to decide, is this something that I still authentically want to do just for perhaps the experience of it? Or do I really need this piece? And then I'm going to say, no, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting too is just the fact that you ask for it puts you in a state of worthiness. Like you could almost be detached from the outcome. It's like the cherry on top that they agreed. But the real win is the fact that you stated your needs and asked for it. And that's where the real growth happens. That's where the real transformation happens, is because you're like, no, I'm identifying with someone who's going to ask for their needs because I'm freaking worth it.
Love
So
that.
good.
You also mentioned that fake it till you make it.
Mm,
And as a sound healer, as a frequency nerd, it's really difficult to take that for people. It's really difficult to fake it till you make it in an inauthentic way. And I
mm-hmm,
think a lot of people hear that sentiment or they'll share about it on their social media or whatever, like fake it till you make it. And people don't really understand what that means and that it's actually not possible for you to emit a frequency that's inauthentic to who you are. And
mm,
so if you're trying to emit this, we'll call it fake frequency, everyone around you will feel
mm-hmm,
that.
mm-hmm,
There's no bypassing that. That's like spiritual bypassing in a way.
mm-hmm,
So, this fake it till you make it frequency, the way to really work with that is to take these micro steps, take those tiny little shifts that will expand your frequency and also bring harmony into your body, allowing that connection with your highest self, your
mm-hmm,
authenticity, and feeling into where does this feel most authentic, that I feel safe in taking this like one little micro step. And even though it's scary, it's like you're going to dip your toe in and then pull it out really quick, but it's still staying in line with your authentic frequency because we all have our own unique frequency. So I couldn't like see you, Jessica, and be like, oh my God, she's like such an expander for me, and I want to be exactly like her. And so I'm going to emit Jessica's frequency.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be possible, but I think a lot of people have inspiration, see these, whether it's celebrities or people that they look up to, and try to emulate their frequency. And that's where I'm saying that that type of fake it till you make it won't work. So you have to find your own that's in alignment with you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good kind of like topic to debunk because the way that fake it till you make it is typically presented is basically copy what you think is cool, right? And if we know anything about how powerful our authentic, original, unique selves, that is the most magnetic thing. That is the place and space where you're going to manifest your unique abundance. Copying someone, the energy of copying, trying to act out of a way to get validated or fit in or should, that's never going to result in what you want. In fact, it's putting up more barriers to your authenticity. But when I was saying fake it till you make it, um, it's in, like you said, this very micro way. And it only works if you are doing the subconscious work on the back end. So, we have the expanding step, the unblocking step, the aligned action step, working with all of those in tandem to manifest. But if we are just taking the action, for example, if you just sent that email, but you never really sat with and processed all the places that you had resentment about feeling taken advantage of, if you didn't sit with and process and feel through, whoa, this pattern has come up so many times and this is how I played out in the past. And let me just like soothe my inner child, my soul, and let it know that it's okay, it's safe, it can go forward. If you didn't do any of that work, you probably would have been met with something, that's even more triggering on the back end because you don't have the subconscious self-worth to back it up. But because you're doing that subconscious self-worth and you're really excavating deep in there on a soul level, that's when you can take one step forward into a new way of acting or being or setting a boundary or saying no, and you're looking at the subconscious, it's like you have a new neural pathway over here of worthiness and you're just trying to tip the scale over to the worthiness side with your actions. So it's like you still, might have that limiting belief in there. And then you have the new form of this worthiness belief in there. And your action is like, I want to go here, but okay, fine. I'm going to fake it because it feels foreign and different and weird. But then now I'm here. And that's when you can really take alignment with it. But if you don't even have this new belief system and you try to fake it till you make it, well, you're going to end up right back at that same limiting belief again, because you're not actually doing it from a place of authenticity or backed by a belief system that is supporting that action.
And
So
that's the
hopefully,
biggest
yeah.
thing about manifestation that we see is the think positive and the act as if and the vision boards. And while all of those have a little merit, like you can take them for what they are as being, there's a little weight to them, but they're on the surface. They just are
Mm-hmm.
floating on the surface. Your subconscious is 98% of your brain power. So
Mm-hmm.
there's so much underneath the surface. I just was at the beach the other day, and on the shoreline, for as far as I could see in every single direction, were these tiny jellyfish that looked like the Portuguese man of war, like
Hmm.
a million of, like, so many, it was not even fathomable. And it kind of freaked me out because I know that they're really dangerous and poisonous, and there were just millions of them all over the beach. But I was so curious and I was looking at them, taking pictures, sending to my friend, and he said, no, those are called Valeas, are also known as by the wind sailor. And they're like the sister to the Portuguese man of war, but they don't have stingers, and they're not poisonous. So they
Hmm.
look identical, but they don't have that sting.
Hmm.
And they float 100% on the surface of the ocean. They never go below the water level. And so while I
Wow.
was just saying that about the subconscious being 98%, and if we think about that little tiny by the way sailor that's just like floating back and forth
Gliding.
on the surface, that's the thinking positive.
Mm-hmm.
That's the vision board. That's the act as if. Underneath, where all the rest of marine existence lives, those are the places, the nooks and crannies to get curious about, to explore. And the more that you dive into this subconscious space, the easier it becomes. A lot of people are scared of the subconscious. They avoid going into that darkness, the void, the vastness, because they don't know what to expect. But understanding that your subconscious will always only give you what you can handle in that moment. And if something comes forward, even if it's difficult, and I use that word again, it's not bad, it's just difficult. It's because your subconscious knew that you were capable of working through this difficulty at that time.
Mm. So true. Um, and I think, when people say they're scared of the subconscious, your current reality is a reflection of what's happening in your subconscious. So you may be afraid of it, but it's already in motion with you. It is dancing with you at every second of the day. And I think it's a real honor to ourselves to be able to go in and say, okay, what is my operating system? What's going on in here? What did I pick up? What am I reacting to that is a way that I'm trying to keep myself safe and maybe doesn't work anymore? Can I look at this with a curiosity lens to see what's going on, because you can want to avoid it all day long, but your reality is often a very real reflection of what's going on in there anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we're coming to the end of this podcast episode. Is there anything that you would like to share for somebody who has maybe heard of TBM or has never heard of TBM as just like a way to connect with this work and any outcomes that, I don't know, whatever pops into your mind?
The thing that's coming to me right now is just, I think so many times people can feel really stuck. They feel like, life is happening to them, or yeah, like I'm in control here, but like I can't do anything about this, and they feel really powerless. And I myself move in ebbs and flows and moments where I feel powerless. And I hope and I wish and I like wish I could give the feeling to everyone that you could just know that you have the power to heal, to grow, to change your life, to um explore these deeper things going on, to have the things you want in life, to create a beautiful life, to create a beautiful life with your relationship with the human existence. I mean, I think that is such an incredible aspect of this too, which is okay, even if you just look at the TBM work as how do I have support when I'm facing those hard moments? Boom, there you go. Like here's a whole mindset shift of how you can go look at that and do that and process through your feelings. So, I don't know, the thing that's coming up the loudest is just like you're not stuck. You won't be in this state forever. Things can change, they will change. You're so much more powerful than you even are aware of. Um and I just really want people to like feel that on a deep level.
Mm, thank you for sharing that. I deeply agree. And for anyone who's interested in joining To Be Magnetic, I have a very special discount of
Yay.
15% off your membership for the entire year. And you can use code TESS when you check out, and that will give you 15% off. It will also give me 15%, which is really beautiful because I share about this work all the time since I've started, and to have this now, it feels reciprocal in a
Mhm.
way, and I really appreciate that. So whoever made that happen on the back end of your team, sending that gratitude. And how can people connect with you and TBM and all of that?
Yeah. So you can follow TBM at To Be Magnetic. Check out the expanded podcast that I co-host with Lacey, the founder. And you can follow me at Jessica Ashley Gill. I'm usually posting nature reels and talking about, what's going on in the collective and um, themes coming up for the community and helping them navigate through.
Yeah, that's something that I really appreciate about your, particularly in your stories content, where
Mhm.
you will sometimes answer questions or just share something that's come up for you and how to utilize that through the process of To Be Magnetic. So you have not only the expanded podcast, but then you also have the testimonial page, and then you have you and everyone else who's on the team that really is showcasing the power of this work. And then also me over here in my little corner as a cheerleader. So thank you so much for taking the time. And it's been great to reconnect with you. And I know everyone will enjoy this episode.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.